Hey guys, what's going on? It's David here from Scizor Explosion. I'm joined here by Michael, and today we're going to be profiling for you his Rayquaza variant deck. Now this is a really cool deck, and we got a lot of Rayquaza coming your way. We've already recorded the Rayquaza Vikavolt, and this time it is Rayquaza Venusaur. Venusaur is a really powerful Pokemon. Mike came up with this idea, and I really love the idea. This deck does really well. We played a couple rounds with it. We just built it, and we're so excited about it that we want to profile it for you guys. So Mike's going to be sitting across the table over here while we profile it, and without further ado, let's get into it. First off, 4 copies of Rayquaza GX, of course. Rayquaza is the main attacker of this deck, probably one of the only attackers in this deck. I guess it is possible to attack with Venusaur, but I digress. Rayquaza GX has the Stormy Winds ability. When you play this Pokemon from your hand onto your bench, during your turn, you may discard the top 3 cards of your deck. If you do, attach a basic energy card from your discard pile to this Pokemon. And then Dragon Break for Grass Lightning Colorless does 30 damage times the amount of basic Grass and basic Lightning energy attached to your Pokemon. And then Tempest GX is a really good GX attack, and it's the only GX attack option in this deck. Discard your hand and draw 10 cards. Very, very powerful GX attack, especially with Sycamore rotating. So 4 copies of Rayquaza GX. By the way, we are at our local card shop, so we might have a little bit of background noise. Sorry about that. 3 copies of Bulbasaur. Bulbasaur, you need Bulbasaur in order to get to Venusaur. Just a stepping stone. It is possible to attack with Razor Leaf, but you're probably not going to attack with Razor Leaf. So 3 copies of Bulbasaur. And then 3 copies of the Venusaur from Shining Legends with the Jungle Totem ability, which makes all basic grass energy count as 2 basic grass energies. So with this on the field, Rayquaza can attack for a grass and lightning energy and deal 90 damage. So it's really strong, and your energy start to build up very quickly. So 3 copies of Venusaur. Next up, we have the 1 copy of Latias Prism Star. Latias is there to recharge your Rayquazas in case they get knocked out without a Wishful Baton attached. Dreamy Mist does 30 damage. Then you get to attach a basic energy card from your discard pile to each of your bench basic dragon Pokemon. This is really good if you get a Rayquaza knocked out, and then you could reattach 2 grass energies from the discard pile, which is like attaching 4 as long as you have the Venusaur set up. So yeah, Latias comes in clutch sometimes. So 1 copy of the Latias. And to end off the Pokemon line, 2 copies of Marshadow with the Let Loose ability. When you play this card from your hand onto your bench during your turn, you can make each player shuffle their hand to their deck and draw 4 cards. This is like a judge. So very, very powerful ability. I've seen Mike use it a lot, and it messes up a lot of his opponents. So yeah, 2 copies of that. And interestingly, sorry about that, Michael does not play any Tapu Lele, and he feels you don't need it in this deck. He hasn't had any problem getting to the cards that he needs, so he plays inflated counts of some of the supporters in this deck, and we'll get to that here in just a moment. 2 copies of Marshadow. Now on to the supporters. 4 copies of Tate and Liza. Tate and Liza is a really good card, probably the best, second best draw supporter in the format, or arguably the best. Choose 1, you can shuffle your hand to your deck and draw 5 cards, or switch your active Pokemon with one of your benched. It's really powerful. He feels this is better than Cynthia, which he does not play in this deck, because it also gives you the option to switch your Pokemon, and Rayquaza has that really high retreat cost, and discarding energy really isn't an option in this deck. So if you need to draw cards, draw cards. If you need to switch, then switch. So 4 copies of Tate and Liza. 3 copies of Lily. The inflated counts of Lily is because there is no Tapu Lele in this deck, and we want to increase our chances of drawing it in our first hand. So draw until you have 6 cards in your hand. If it's your first turn, you can draw until you have 8. With 3 in your deck, you have a really high chance of drawing it in your first turn. So 3 copies of Lily. 1 copy of Copycat. Copycat's there for copying your opponent's hand, and it's really good in the mirror match. If your opponent happens to Tempest, then you can Copycat and draw 10 cards yourself. So 1 copy of Copycat. The other supporters, we run 3 copies of Volkner. Volkner's really strong in this deck because you do run basic lightning energies. Search your deck for an item card and a basic lightning energy. Reveal them and put them into your hand. So this helps Mike get out his rare candies, his Ultra Balls if he already has rare candy in his hand, his Wishful Batons so he can attach them to his Rayquazas and make it to where he doesn't lose his energies if your Rayquazas get knocked out. So very powerful card. And to end off the supporters, we have 2 copies of Guzma. Guzma is really strong. He's playing 2 copies because he's also playing Escape Rope in this deck. And so far, the 2 copies has not bothered him at all. Switch your opponent's bench Pokemon with their active, and if you do, you switch your active with one of your benched. So really powerful card. And that's it for the supporters. We're going on to the items now. First up, we run 4 copies of Ultra Ball. Ultra Ball is your basic searcher for any Pokemon deck. Discard 2 cards from your hand. If you do, search your deck for any Pokemon add to your hand. Mainly, the Ultra Balls are in here for your Venusaurs and your Bulbasaurs. So use those to get that evolutionary line. And then we also play 3 copies of Mysterious Treasure to get our Dragons and Psychic Pokemon out of the deck. This one can search you the majority of your deck, your 4 Rayquazas, your 1 Latias, and your Marshadow. So use these to search those out, and then use the Ultra Balls for your Venusaurs and Bulbasaurs. Next up, 3 copies of Rare Candy. We gotta run Rare Candy because we're not running Ivysaur in this deck. And 3 copies has worked out pretty well so far. You can choose a basic and then evolve straight into its stage 2. So, necessary card for this deck. Next up is 3 Wishful Batons. Mike and I both agree on this. Wishful Baton is probably more important in this deck than Choice Band, and the reason is because of Venusaur. Venusaur doubles your grass energies on the field, so it's already like you have a Choice Band once you attach a grass energy. So Wishful Baton just makes it to where if your Pokemon this card is attached to is knocked out, you can move up to 3 basic energies from the Pokemon that's knocked out onto one of your bench Pokemon. So really powerful card. 2 copies of Escape Rope. Escape Rope is kind of like a Guzma, but it gives each player the freedom to choose which Pokemon they switch in. It's really good for mobility in this deck because Rayquaza does have such a high retreat cost, and you don't want to be discarding your energies. So 2 copies of Escape Rope. 2 copies of Pokénav. Michael really has an affinity for this card. It's actually pretty good in this deck, since it is a Stage 2 deck. Look at the top 3 cards of your deck. You may reveal a Pokemon or energy card you find there and put it into your hand. Then put the other cards back in any order. It's also very good when using Rayquaza's Storming Winds ability, because you can actually check the cards you're about to discard and make sure it's not something you need or something that's going to be very important to your next play. So Pokénav can serve many purposes in this deck. For the recovery, we have 2 copies of Rescue Stretcher. 2 is a bare minimum for any Rayquaza deck, I believe, because Rayquaza does have that Storming Winds ability. You can put a Pokemon from your discard pile into your hand, or you can shuffle 3 Pokemon from the discard pile into your deck. It's also really useful whenever you're using Rayquaza's Storming Winds ability and you discard something like a Venusaur, and then you already have a Rare Candy in your hand, and you can just Rescue Stretcher for it, get into your hand, Rare Candy into Venusaur, and then start attacking for massive damage. So 2 copies of Rescue Stretcher. And then 1 copy of Energy Recycle System. Put 1 basic energy from the discard pile into your hand, or shuffle 3 basic energy cards from your discard pile into your deck. It's just like Rescue Stretcher, but for basic energies. So it can be there to shuffle your energies back into your deck. Maybe you need to draw some more. Maybe you're running low in the deck, or you can just put another energy into your hand, attach a grass from the discard pile to one of your benched Pokemon, and deal another 60 damage, as long as Venusaur is set up. And for the last item card, 1 copy of Palpad. Just to get those supporters back. We do run only 2 Guzmas, and maybe you need to get another one back. So Palpad's there for the recovery on our supporters. And to end off the cards in this deck, we run 8 basic grass and 5 basic lightning. The lower count of lightning is because we do run Volkner, and Volkner can search out that lightning that we need. The most important basic energy in this deck, though, is the grass energies, because you get out the Venusaur, then each grass energy counts for 2. You can attach 2 to Rayquaza, or attach a grass energy, then a lightning, and then he can go ahead and attack for a 2 energy cost. So it's a really cool combo. And that's it for the deck profile, guys. I think this is a very interesting deck. It's really powerful. I've seen Michael play a couple games with it, and yeah, it can take off really, really fast. So be sure and like, comment, and subscribe. We're almost at our 50 subscribers, and once we get there, we're going to be giving away a couple of hyper rare Pokemon GX. So y'all be sure and subscribe, like, and comment below, and we'll see you all next time.